So speak to me about this one. So one of the things, and I'll tell you, based on our conversation, is so you sit down and so at one point you either had an axle, a steering wheel, or you had a spark plug, and then the entire car was built around a single part. You know, rarely do you just sketch out a car like, I got to build this car. It's like you have this like taillight lens, and you're like, this is the one for that car. And the entire car comes out. What was it on this one?
Okay, well, I think it was probably the superchargers. I found this at the Pate swap meet. This supercharger right here.
Paxton or McCulloch.
It's a McCulloch.
Paxton.
Exactly, yeah. This is the very first VS57 supercharger they built. They built in the early 50s. Yeah, I think it came about in 1952. So this is the earliest version of that blower. So inside there, there's got a solenoid that pulls the belt in and out. So it actually changes the ratio, the supercharger ratio, as it's running, depending on the load. So anyway.
So it's kind of like a constant speed prop, like on a plane kind of thing?
Well, sort of. It's like this part right here is actually actuated by a solenoid, so this goes in and out. And typically there's a idler pulley out here.
And it'll change the height
so it changes the diameter of the upward pulley. So it can get smaller or bigger, and that increases the boost or decreases the boost depending on the diameter of the pulley. Well, on this one, I circumvented all that, got rid of the idler pulley, and locked it. So I can actually change it just by moving the idler pulley in and out. So I can set how much boost I want to have just by changing that, which is kind of an unusual way to do it, but it does seem to work. But yeah, so that's the first piece that I found that I knew that kind of set the direction of this car. I'd already kind of figured out in my head that maybe I want to build a track T, with the track nose and the aluminum hood, aluminum panels. But until I got that, I didn't really know how I want to do the rest of it. So that led to me deciding, okay, I want to do motor plates. I want to do a chromoly tube chassis. I want this thing to be a race car, and I'm going to take it to the Race of Gentlemen and try to stomp everybody's ass. So anyway, before I bought that, I was thinking I was going to build a nitro fueled flathead. But then they decided they didn't want to have nitro up there. So, well, if I can't do nitro, then I guess I'll do a blower. So finding that blower was kind of like the key to doing the rest.
And you've converted Strombergs
to so and we could talk about this shit all day because it's actually kind of complex for an antique dinosaur engine.
This is very complex. To be able to convert these to be blow through on, and then obviously you made the sub hat, the top hat, everything.
Right. Yeah. So I made all this stuff here in the shop. That intake manifold actually has an angle built into it because the engine in those cars, in a 51 to 53 Ford, 49 to 53 Ford, sits in a little bit of an angle. So the intake manifold has the opposite angle. So I had to put that in the mill it flat, take the cars, figure out where all the boost was going to leak out, figure out how to seal all that up. And actually, the internet helped there because I found a guy that done a similar thing at Bonneville, and he said, "Okay, I had to drill a hole here, do this and do that." So I read about that and learned what I had to do, and then I had to figure out how to get it all from there to there. And the thing about this car is it's such a small cowl that I wanted to have everything on a pretty low roof or a pretty low hood line, so I didn't want to have a bunch of stuff sticking out. So I had to make all the bracketry to hold the supercharger, as well as make the hat and the snorkel and all that stuff. So. It actually has a motor plate on the front and a motor plate behind the motor. The motor plate in the front holds the blower, so all the brackets are built off the motor.
I see it now. Cool.
Yeah. So anyway,
do we know how much boost 3 main bearings will take?
Well, it's funny you say that because my other car, my 32 Roadster up there, I have a blower on it as well, and I blew the center main cap off of it at the Race of Gentlemen the first time I went up there. Yeah. It still ran, but it blew the center main cap completely off of it.
It just vibrates a little bit.
Yeah. It still ran, but... So anyway, that's another thing with like trying to keep it all...
How about the bell crank on the shock?
Yeah, so I decided I wanted to have the shock inside the body so there wouldn't be an exposed shock out here, but still have a hydraulic tube shock. So yeah, I put it on a bell crank, and it's not all tightened up right now. It's still the dog bone's not on it, but I can kind of demonstrate how it works,
You put an in link on it, and then you don't have to look at it, So all that you have are outwardly very appropriate.
So a little dog bone connected here to the axle. It's all it's missing right now. But like I said, it's kind of loose. Anyway, and there's still stuff that has to be done in this car. It needs exhaust still. Needs a full belly pan.
Your firewall actually is the motor plate.
The firewall is the motor plate. Yeah. Right. And doing the research to build this car, there was a car I based a lot of this on. It was ran by a guy named Paul Schaefer, and he's the guy that invented the aluminum flywheel, Schaefer flywheels. So Paul Schaefer had a 24 Model T, and he ran it at the dry lakes, and he did some of the dirt track, the short oval, that kind of racing too. But his car had a chromoly tube chassis, and it was like, they were talking like 1947, 48, right around there, just immediately post-war. But his chromoly tube chassis was 2 giant pieces of tubing, side by side,
like an MC Cobra.
Just a regular ladder style frame, or side by side parallel tube frame. And this is a little more modern than that. And the reason I did it this way is because we have all this technology now, and if you can hide it inside here, why not do it this way?
When I look at it, it looks like early American airplanes at very light, skeletons stretched in canvas. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so it's like, to me, this looks like an airplane.
Yeah. And that was the idea of this, was to make it as lightweight as possible. Since I couldn't put nitro in it, and I couldn't overpower the tires with horsepower, I thought, well, let's make it as light as possible and put as much boost in as I can without blowing it up, and that'll probably make it as fast as I can make it, as far as with this kind of package.
The thing about it for me is like, we talked earlier about being an artist versus being just a skilled trader, right? Bricklayer, right? Yeah. Is that it is awful hard to drive bricks sideways around a corner.
Yeah.
And so every once in a while, you're talking about battling burnout and stuff. For me, sometimes the thing is remembering why you chose cars instead of something else, or motorcycles. And sometimes it is just to get that I almost died feeling. You know what I mean? Yep. It's like you need, and then also, I personify the vehicles so much. Like, they have personalities, and like they breathe the same way we breathe, and the same principles. They vibrate, they shudder, and so there's this relationship you have with the machine that you made. Yeah. It knows your hours, you know your hours, and you're asking it to do stuff it don't want to do, and you're telling it, God damn it, you're going to do it. And so I think that is one of the most unique dances that we as hot rodders have, is that with this cold metal that we put life into, and it's not a production vehicle that they all sit on the lot and they all do the exact same job. Yeah. This has one job, and it was designed to do it for you.
Exactly. So that's exactly right. And every piece on this thing I found and put in this organization, this layout, and that's what, like you said, it gives it life. It's not, this Model T didn't look anything like this when it rolled off the assembly line. So this thing would not exist without me doing it. And that's one of the things you have to like about it, is like you're creating something that would not exist unless you did it.